Alright, this is Crota giving you another audio commentary. This time it's going to happen on Secret Valley between Yoan and Fix. We have Fix on the bottom left-hand corner spawning as the blue undead player. Quickly builds an altar of darkness and a ziggurat. Meanwhile, we have the human player in the orange building an altar. It's most likely going to build barracks and a farm for your standard human start. It doesn't look as though we're going to see rifles at this time. No early shop, no early lumber mill. So it just looks to be footmen and most likely an archmage. We do have a curious positioning on that farm, and I'm going to see how Yoan does go ahead and builds this particular base setup. Meanwhile, we have an early crypt, so we're going to look like to have ghouls coming from Fix. So Death Knight and ghouls coming from Fix most likely. Meanwhile, I believe we're going to have an archmage and footman coming out from Yoan. We have a curious, or it looks as though it's going to be like a semi-scout farm building a little bit far off to the left-hand side of the space. We have a home of relics being built, and we have an early scout coming from Njai's Fix off of that acolyte. We do have a Death Knight coming out, and so the Death Knight is going to be able to pick up some Rod of Necromancy and then head out. The barracks is nearing completion and an archmage is being produced, so it's going to be footman and archmage coming out from the human player. Meanwhile, it looks as though that crypt is going to be nearing completion and he is going to be going ahead and producing some ghouls, early ghouls. Now we have that acolyte nearing halfway across the map. We do have a second farm being built, but this build is a little bit more susceptible to harass. Perhaps we're going to see an arcane tower to be able to counter those of summoned skeletons. Acolyte now coming out in across the map. Yoan building one additional scout farm to be able to see what's happening around on the build, and we do see that Yoan does find Fix's scouting acolyte. The scouting acolyte is going to be focused down by the footman. The archmage is going to now pop out, and that acolyte, if he's not careful, is going to be giving the archmage some additional hit points. But it looks as though Fix's acolyte is going to be able to make it out, while we have an early creep coming out from Yoan. Meanwhile, Death Knight coming in across the map with a Rod of Necromancy, Scroll of Teleportation, is going to most likely try to do some harass. That acolyte is down to 30 hit points, is going to go ahead and run into the creeps and go ahead and head down. Skeletal minion and were able to be produced off of, I'm guessing I missed an acolyte trying to kill a critter. Meanwhile, we have the archmage now close to level 2. We have a use of death coil on the archmage. Archmage most likely picked up a manual of health, being able to have 500 hit points right now. So we have the end guys Fix skeleton trying to take down, we're trying to go down. Archmage trying to run around across the map, most likely going to try to go ahead and pick up a boot of speed. Is he going to pick up a boot of speed? I can't really tell at this point. It looks as though that water elemental is going to go ahead and creep and giving that archmage level 2, so long distance creeping. Meanwhile, that archmage, is he level? Yep, gets to level 2, and that Death Knight is going to go ahead and try to do some damage on that footman. One of the footmen is down to 189 hit points. Archmage not really joining in on that fight. Null Brute, it goes down and gets some experience for the Death Knight. So level 3 kill for the Death Knight. He quickly grabs 48 experience. We have a skeletal minion down to 22 hit points, is not going to be able to get chased down. Archmage now coming in, picks up the Tome of Agility, nice pickup, making sure that to deny the Death Knight. The Death Knight picks up a Boots of Speed, so the Boots of Speed on the Death Knight is going to give him better positioning and range, and being able to catch up with that Archmage. That Archmage normally faster than the Death Knight. That Death Knight now with the Boots of Speed, even without Unholy Aura, able to move very quickly around the map. We do have Fiends now being pushed out, so it looks as though it was going to be a Death Knight harass with Fiends. We do have a no surround on the Death Knight, and we do have a single Fiend coming out now, going ahead trying to creep out this camp, and looks as though the Archmage wants to be able to do some damage. Is going to go ahead and turn around. We have more militia coming in. We have, oh, come on, trying to get a surround on that Death Knight. Do we have a surround on the Death Knight? Yes, we do. That Death Knight is down and taking some major damage, but the Archmage is also low as well. That Death Knight, if he's not careful, is going to go down. Archmage now, Death Knight is now trapped in the back. It looks as though the peasants are now trying to take down that Ogre Magi. The Archmage is now trying to run back, and we have a teleportation, leaving behind a Fiend and a single skeleton. And that Gauntlet of Ogre Strength still there. It was not destroyed. We now have towers being built up, so Yoan is going to go ahead and have an expansion. still with a, it's still just sitting at Town Hall at this time, so no quick tier 2, and it looks as though Death Knight wants to get some additional hit points, and so the Archmage is thinking the exact same thing. If they are not careful, they are going to run into each other. And the Archmage is circling around, trying to really survive, unable to stick around at that particular fight, even though the Archmage does have more hit points. That Fountain of Health, I believe, is a percentage-based heal. Oh, we have a Naga Sea Witch coming out. So Naga Sea Witch in for the early harassment. Archmage is forced to go ahead and retreat. Those fiends are going to be able to take down that arcane tower very quickly if he decides to focus down that tower. Meanwhile, we have a good number of footmen. I do not believe we have defend researched yet. So the footmen trying to push back that Death Knight. That Death Knight footman trying to go ahead to the back. That footman looks like he is going to go down, yes, to Fiend Focus Fire. Meanwhile, the Archmage is trying to get this expansion up and running. We do have a guard tower being produced now. We have an arcane tower, and we have Fix going to go ahead and upgrade the Black Citadel for tier 3. We do have level 2 on the Death Knight, so level 2 on the Death Knight, a good amount of militia trying to take down those fiends, but those fiends now with Unholy Aura able to outrun, or perhaps outrun. It looks as though he's trying to get positioning on that fiend. That fiend is running to the back. No arcane shop for human, for Yoan, so Yoan unable to really heal that Archmage. Archmage pulling to the back, trying to get away from that focus fire, and single fiend in position, and we do have a second guard tower being produced. So this is going to have 2 towers back at the main base, keep finally being upgraded for Yoan, and we have a second tower being built as well. So that Archmage has got to be careful. It takes a death coil, takes 70 damage, and because he is a hero as opposed to the normal 100. Fiend focus down a single guard tower, and now a second guard tower trying to be produced. That guard tower is going to go down to that focus fire. Perhaps should cancel it. Yes, it looks as though Yoan canceled that guard tower, and now those fiends are getting focused down. We do have ice arrows on a couple of the footmen. The footmen getting picked down one by one by those fiends. Those fiends doing a very good amount of damage against these units. Meanwhile, we do have an expansion up and running, and we have an arcane vault being produced. So we have 2 guard towers and an arcane vault and an arcane tower. He is upgrading the armor on those guard towers and the hit points. So we got to be careful here. Those fiends trying to run away. It looks as though the fiends are now in the back. Are we going to get a surround on that single fiend? I know the Archmage is too low on hit points. It looks as though the Archmage does not want to stick around. Death Knight does not have any additional, doesn't have any additional mana for a coil, and gets into range of the Arcane Tower, so has no more mana once again. Now we have the footman trying to get a surround on Fix's Naga Sea Witch. No surround on the Naga Sea Witch. The Naga Sea Witch does have a boost of speed, making her a little bit faster, so it looks like he, yes, did transfer the boost of speed from the Death Knight. Archmage is now sitting peacefully outside or in front of those towers trying to protect, have a deterrent against that Archmage. The Archmage is now trying to push back, now does do a healing. Healing is going to get interrupted by a fiend if he's not careful. Archmage or Naga Sea Witch gonna get a shot off. No, the animation was not able to go off. We do have a healing Archmage still. Meanwhile, back at the main base, or at the expansion, we do have healing up and running, and it looks as the Archmage was able to make it to the back of the base, and we have 3 guard towers being produced. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pause this replay at this time. This is gonna be part 1 of a 3-part replay. Please stay tuned, and I hope you enjoyed. Hold on, let's see if I can milk this for a couple more seconds. And I'll go ahead and pause it right now.